I believe in helping the world understand and use disruptive technologies. If you look back at my past, I was a co-founder of a company called Ariba back in 1996. And what we did was we used the internet for the first time to automate purchasing, business to business, or B2B as they called it. It was disruptive at the time. It solved a lot of problems. Today, I'm working in a company that's building business jets. We're building business jets using something called laminar flow technology. The essence of what that is there's less drag, there's a 60% savings in the usage of fuel, and the jets fly at 51,000 feet, which means we don't create contrails. So we're making a big impact on global warming and all the things that are potentially hurting the environment. The University of Toledo gave me a chance. And by that, I mean it gave me a chance to learn about myself, to learn how I learned, to learn how I had to interface with different things to learn. When I came into the University of Toledo, they clearly determined I needed a little bit of remedial mathematics help. And that was good for me because they put me in a course that was, I guess you'd call it a geometry course, but it was doing things that I hadn't done in high school. And it gave me confidence. And so as I went through the next 4.5 years at UT, I just found out that I continued to learn how I learned. And that was a big deal because, some people learn by rote, going over something over and over again. Some people can see an image and repeat it and have a memory that's maybe photographic. I was probably more of that. What UT, they gave me the time to figure that out, and they helped me find my path. I think it's pretty consistent with the way my ancestors came to America. I'm assuming my ancestors they obviously came in the 1800s, late 1800s. Not having the ability to talk to them, I'm sure it had to do with finding a better path, a better way in life. And I think the same thing applied to me. I found my way by seeing the Silicon Valley start to build up. I was in Toledo. I was watching it happen. I would see Steve Jobs on the cover of magazines wearing blue jeans and New Balance running shoes. And it just struck me that that's a path I thought was interesting. And I became enamored with technology and with computers in particular. And so it led me on a path of wanting to be part of that. And it couldn't have been a better choice because I came into Silicon Valley in 1984. It couldn't have been more perfect time. Personal computers were just starting to grow out. We've gone through a whole bunch of different phases through the internet and through the world. I think that that's pretty much helped me understand that my life's path was consistent with wanting to help disruptive technologies. It was also providing things for the masses to use. Computers and technology was certainly a part of that, and I continue that today. Well, I have to tell a story about that. So when I started at UT in the fall of 1979, I had 2 pass-fail courses and 2 grade courses, and I didn't do good in the grade courses. My high school girlfriend had dropped me, and that was pretty traumatic at the time. So my first quarter GPA was not very good. And I tell my kids this story because I never gave up, and I kept going on and going on. And I graduated, and I've made a big significant contribution to the University of Toledo with cash and with my time and other things. To me, it's a recognition of that. So it's a recognition on behalf of the university that you come in with a certain skill set, with a certain experience. We're going to help you polish that. We're going to help you learn how to apply that to the world. We don't care where you started. What we care about is how you take what we teach you and go out and attack life. And to me, this is a recognition that your first quarter GPA didn't really matter. What matters is what you did afterwards. To me, it recognizes my accomplishments. I think I left Toledo. People don't really know, if you read the local newspaper and someone writes something about me, that's great, but we don't even have that benefit. And so to me, it's a way of the university recognizing the things that people do when they start in Toledo and they move out in the world. And so to me, it means that we all make a contribution, sometimes directly within the community, sometimes other ways, but the universities are recognizing that they've had an impact and an influence on all of that. I can't really pick one thing, but I'll summarize it like this. I'm proud of the fact that I've done a lot of things to pay for my way through school, stocking grocery store shelves, being a cashier in a grocery store, unloading produce trucks, delivering newspapers very early, on and on and on. I did a lot of things to make it possible for me to learn at the University of Toledo and to apply those skills in my career. Later on, because of my financial skills and what I had learned partially from the university and partially from the companies I had chosen to work with, I was able to be part of a founding team of a company called Ariba. As I described earlier, we started something that became B2B e-commerce. The company still exists today as part of a larger company called SAP. The product is still being used. And I'm proud of that because I was part of that team that had the idea, part of that team that grew the company from 7 people sitting around basically a small table in a venture capital office in Silicon Valley to something that became almost 4,000 people 4.5 years later. So I'm proud of that. I'm also proud, I didn't really have a plan to work in the government, but in 2018, I was invited and recruited into the State Department to take a look from an international perspective on the impact of foreign companies on our stock exchanges and to look at that from a number of different angles. I had a security clearance and I was able to really see things in a different light. And I was able to make a contribution that became an executive order signed by the president and reaffirmed by his successor that dictated what foreign companies could be in our exchanges and how we had to do things that would protect the financial security of the United States. So I'm very proud to say I had a part of that. I would use enabling because I wasn't a 4-year, I was a 4.5, almost 5-year time to get my bachelor's degree. And so in a way that sort of recognizes that it's part of working your way through school. If it takes you 4.5 years, so be it. If it takes you 5 years, so be it. We're here for you. We're in the community. I think, so I would describe that as enabling. There wasn't a push me out in my first quarter when my grades weren't that good. I'm sure there were some people that were concerned, certainly my mother. But I think that, so I would say enabling. I would see challenging. They challenged me. Curriculum was one way. I think that was an important thing because what I learned in college was life balance. You had to work sometimes, you had to study sometimes, and you had to sleep sometimes. But you had to do them all. That's no different than life. The different things you're juggling become probably more challenging and different. But I think that was part of what I would describe as it challenged me in a lot of ways, and I think very rewarding. I've continuously felt appreciation from the University of Toledo for the contributions I've made back to the school. Our scholarship program has more than 30 people that have come out with full ride scholarships. We try to keep in touch with them. So that and how much the university has asked me to come in and help and give opinion on things, I think very rewarding. As you know, I have a degree in business. And so along the way, I took a geology course. The professor was Dr. Neller, and I don't remember his first name, might have been Robert, but Dr. Neller, geology professor. His specialty, I think, in geology was finding diamonds or finding the right circumstances, looking at the globe and so forth, where there might be. And so I didn't know a lot about him at the time, but I didn't do very well in my first midterm. He had 2 midterms and then a final. I think I got like a D-. I might have even flunked. I don't remember. But I just went into him I just thought I'll drop the course. I'll pick this up or pick up some other course next quarter. But his requirement was you had to go in and tell him. And so I did. And I went into his room, his office, And I told him what I wanted to do, and that I thought the best way to deal with it was to drop the course, and I'll come back and take something else next quarter. And he sat back, and I'll never forget the moment. He looked at me and he said, "So are you going to be a quitter your whole life?" And then he gave me a talk about, challenge and taking something on. At some point in your life, you got to look at the challenge and you've got to say, I can overcome that and I can improve upon that. And I think this is your time. Now, he wasn't trying to recruit me to be a geologist, although I found the course very fascinating, but it was that I believe what he was telling me to do is to believe in myself. I didn't have a father growing up. He died when I was 11 months old. Now, here was a male role model to me, a professor, telling me to believe in myself. Okay, I took the challenge. I didn't drop the course. I started studying really hard for two reasons. One of them is that I wanted to show him I believed in myself, but the second reason was I wanted to make him happy because I felt like he was believing in me. The next midterm, I think I had an A, and then it was time for the final. I just went at it with full gusto and studied the book over and over again. And I learned through that process how I learned. I had to go over things over and over again and get them in my mind. But once my mind saw the concept, it was there forever. I remember when I went into his office to get the final exam and he handed it to me, and I think he was tearing up. And I even teared up thinking about it. But what he taught me is to believe in myself. He taught me to take a challenge on and never back down. I've used that my whole life. Here's what I found out about Dr. Null later on. He was a Marine. In World War II, he served in the Battle of Guadalcanal. So that was not an easy battle. He clearly in his life knew how to take challenges on and to excel. And I think what he helped me sharpen my saw. I will never forget that. I know he's gone now, but he had the biggest impact on me, even more than any of my business school professors. Dr. Neller, obviously, I think I've explained that fully. He taught me to believe in myself. He showed me that he cared. He cared about one student. To me, that's kind of summed up what I believe University of Toledo's mission is. This is not Harvard or Columbia. This is a school that serves a working community. At the time I was there, I think it was predominantly a commuter school. And I think the fact that professors like that and the administration sort of shows that we're here to help those who may have to work their way through school, who have equally as much to give the world as someone who's graduating from the Ivy League. I think the whole university needs to be recognized for that. I think the name of my venture capital fund, Determination Ventures, probably sums it up. And someone asked me one time, what do you think we should put on your gravestone? I said, if you say it in the way I would want it said, it would say, above all else, he was determined. He never quit. I think that's probably the way I think I'll be remembered. People can say, someone told me years ago that I worked with, he said, they can always outthink us, but we can always outwork them. And I found that to be a mantra that I've never forgot, because it doesn't matter what your IQ is. What matters most is how determined you are to achieve the end result. People have always told, you've heard this over and over again, if you believe it, you can achieve it. It's true. If you sit down and think about the things you want to achieve and you write them down and you strive for that every day, you can achieve every single one of those things. So I think I want my legacy to be someone who was strong and never quit and was determined.